25 black celebrities who had secret children you didn't know about. They had the fame, the fortune, and the spotlight. But behind the flashing cameras, these 25 black celebrities were hiding something no one saw coming: their own children. Some denied them, others buried the truth for years, and when the secrets finally surfaced, the world was left speechless. This isn't tabloid gossip. It's the raw, uncomfortable reality behind polished reputations. Prepare to uncover the hidden lives, the DNA bombshells, and the scandals that shook empires. Which of these stories will shock you the most? Hit that like button, subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence, and let's dive into the secrets they tried to keep buried. Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson, once hailed as a beacon of hope during the civil rights movement, stood shoulder to shoulder with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., delivering speeches that stirred the soul and marching for justice when few dared. A man of the cloth and a symbol of family values, Jackson embodied integrity until 2001, when a deeply personal revelation upended his spotless public persona. In a twist that left supporters stunned, Jackson admitted to fathering a child out of wedlock with his former employee, Karen Stanford. Their daughter Ashley had been born almost 2 years earlier and kept hidden from the public eye. For months, Jackson had allegedly been paying $10,000 per month in hush money to shield the affair from scrutiny, hoping to preserve the image he'd spent decades crafting. The fallout was swift and severe. Jackson's wife of over 30 years, Jacqueline, remained silent, her pain visible during public appearances. Politicians and religious leaders distanced themselves. The Rainbow Push Coalition. The very organization Jackson founded faced internal strife and public distrust. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it struck at the heart of his entire legacy. Jackson's tearful public apology did little to repair the damage. His once untouchable reputation took a nosedive, with critics accusing him of hypocrisy given his previous stance on morality and responsibility. Yet amid the controversy, Jesse continued his activism, though never with the same moral authority he once commanded. The revelation surrounding Ashley wasn't merely about infidelity, it was about trust, transparency, and the peril of building a legacy on an image rather than truth. For many, it was a sobering reminder that even those placed on pedestals can falter. Jesse Jackson's scandal didn't just stain his reputation, it reshaped how the public views leaders who claim to walk the moral high ground. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, once the most feared man in the ring, held the heavyweight world in his grip by age 20. With his ferocious punches and unmatched intensity, he became the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. Yet behind the roaring crowds, lavish lifestyle, and brutal victories lay a deeply private pain that few ever saw until tragedy struck in 2009. His daughter, Exodus Tyson, born from a relationship far removed from the spotlight, lived quietly outside the chaos of his public life. Unlike his other children, she was rarely mentioned, almost invisible in the narrative of Iron Mike's legacy. But on May 25, 2009, that silence was broken in the most tragic way imaginable. At just 4 years old, Exodus was discovered by her older brother unconscious and entangled in the cord of a treadmill at their Phoenix home. Her mother performed CPR until emergency services arrived, but the injuries proved too severe. Less than a day later, she was pronounced dead. Tyson, who was in Las Vegas at the time, raced home not as a boxer, but as a shattered father. The man who had faced legends in the ring crumbled in tears, devastated by a loss that no amount of strength or fame could shield him from. In the aftermath, Tyson withdrew from the public eye, skipping interviews and appearances. The grief was too raw, the wound too deep. This devastating event marked a turning point in Tyson's life. The fighter who had once been defined by rage and dominance began to show vulnerability and introspection. Exodus's passing was not just a heartbreaking moment, it was a reminder that beneath the armor of public personas lies a fragile humanity. For Tyson, the toughest fight of all wasn't in the ring. It was against an unimaginable sorrow that left an eternal scar. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, The undisputed king of 1980s and 90s comedy built an empire on charisma, blockbuster hits, and magnetic charm. From Beverly Hills Cop to Coming to America, his talent lit up the screen and his off-screen persona exuded confidence. But in 2007, a very different spotlight exposed a personal truth that Murphy had tried to dismiss, a truth that shook his fans and altered the narrative of his spotless celebrity image. At the center of the controversy was Melanie Brown, better known as Scary Spice, from the iconic British pop group Spice Girls. After a whirlwind romance with Murphy, she gave birth to a daughter, Angel Iris Murphy Brown, on April 3, 2007, coincidentally, Murphy's own birthday. Yet rather than welcoming the child, Murphy publicly expressed doubt, stating coldly in an interview, "I don't know whose child that is." The blunt dismissal reverberated through tabloids and entertainment news, casting doubt on the star's personal integrity. Mel B, hurt and publicly shamed, insisted on a paternity test. The results were irrefutable. Murphy was the father. With 99.99% certainty, the DNA confirmed what Mel had always known. Legal action soon followed. A court ordered Murphy to pay child support, and though he complied financially, emotionally, the relationship remained distant and strained. The public watched closely. Some were shocked by the harshness of his denial, others disappointed in the disconnect between the performer's joyful persona and his apparent reluctance to acknowledge his own daughter. Despite continuing to thrive in Hollywood, Murphy rarely spoke about Angel publicly, leaving questions about fatherhood and responsibility in the shadow of his career. For a man whose career was built on making the world laugh, the incident revealed a sobering truth. Even legends can falter when it comes to what matters most: family honesty and accountability. Flavor Flav. Flavor Flav, known for his outlandish style, oversized clock necklaces, and unforgettable shouts of "Yeah, boy," was the iconic hype man of Public Enemy and a staple of early hip-hop culture. Beyond the stage, he became a reality TV fixture, starring in chaotic yet entertaining shows like Flavor of Love, where he portrayed himself as a quirky, devoted father figure. But in 2019, the man who turned himself into a pop culture phenomenon faced a secret he could no longer escape: a son he had allegedly refused to acknowledge. The revelation came through a lawsuit filed by Elizabeth Trujillo, who claimed that Flav was the biological father of her son, Quana. The suit accused Flav of evading financial support and emotional responsibility. Until that point, the public had no idea the child even existed. Trujillo's legal action wasn't just about money, it was about recognition. She demanded that Flav accept his role and fulfill his duties as a father. What made the situation even more alarming was that Flavor Flav's name wasn't listed on Quana's birth certificate. This absence of acknowledgement raised questions about whether he was truly the father. But a court-ordered DNA test left no room for denial. Flavor Flav was without a doubt Quana's biological parent. The fallout was immediate. Fans who had once laughed at Flav's antics began to question the sincerity of his family-first image. Industry peers kept their distance, and the press didn't hesitate to label him a hypocrite. Though he later signed the necessary legal documents to legitimize the paternity, the damage to his reputation was already done. For someone whose life was always on display, the exposure of this hidden chapter wasn't just a scandal, it was a reckoning. Behind the humor and flamboyance stood a man forced to confront a truth he'd long tried to ignore. Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr., often hailed as one of the greatest boxers of all time, built his legacy on speed, precision, and an undefeated record. With over $1 billion earned during his career, he lived a life of unimaginable luxury. Private jets, diamond-encrusted watches, and flashy cars were the norm. But behind the carefully curated image of invincibility, Mayweather harbored a secret that couldn't be silenced with money or fame. A son he refused to publicly acknowledge for years. Karan Mayweather, born in 1999 to Mayweather's former partner Josie Harris, was largely left out of the champion's glamorous lifestyle. Unlike Floyd's frequent social media showcases and extravagant birthday bashes for his other children, Courtroom lived in the background, uncelebrated and overlooked. The situation turned tragic in 2010, when at just 10 years old, Courtroom became the key witness in a domestic violence case that rocked the Mayweather empire. That year, he witnessed Floyd physically assaulting his mother in their Las Vegas home. Terrified, Courtroom ran from the house and called for help. His testimony led to Mayweather's conviction and a 90-day jail sentence. Though the sentence was short, the emotional toll on Courtroom was immeasurable. In later interviews, he did not hold back, describing his father as a coward and a man who was never truly there for him. As the years passed, Floyd continued to bask in the limelight, flaunting his lifestyle and champion status. Yet the public never forgot the haunting story of the boy who had to stand up to his own father in court. No amount of titles could erase the image of a child hurt not just by neglect, but by fear. In the ring, Mayweather never lost a bout. But in the arena of fatherhood, the wounds he left behind speak louder than any scoreboard. Al B. Sure, Al B. Sure, the velvet-voiced heartthrob who helped define late 1980s R&B, was once the epitome of smooth. With hits like Night and Day and Off on Your Own, he soared to fame, capturing hearts with his sultry vocals and clean-cut image. But behind his carefully controlled public persona lay a buried truth, a son he never publicly acknowledged for decades, despite the boy's deep ties to music royalty. In 1991, Al B. Sure had a son named Quincy Brown with model Kim Porter, who would later become the longtime partner of Sean Diddy Combs. While Diddy stepped up as a visible father figure, raising Quincy alongside his biological children, Al B. Sure remained absent from the narrative. For years, Quincy's true parentage remained a whispered rumor within the industry, until the young man began carving out a music and acting career of his own. Despite inheriting his father's musical talent and striking resemblance, Quincy's connection to Al was never spotlighted. There were no father-son moments on red carpets, no social media shout-outs, no interviews acknowledging their bond. The silence was deafening. Fans and insiders alike questioned why a man who sang passionately about love and relationships chose to remain distant from his own son. It wasn't until Quincy became an adult and entered the entertainment world on his own terms that the truth could no longer be avoided. His identity as Al B. Sure's biological child became public knowledge not through his father, but through his own rise to fame and interviews discussing his upbringing with Kim and Diddy. Al B. Sure's legacy remains tied to timeless R&B hits, but the story of Quincy casts a long shadow. In the world of music, where lineage and mentorship often define careers, his absence from his son's life became a silent controversy, a reminder that sometimes the deepest wounds are carved by what is never said. Master P. Master P, born Percy Miller, is a name synonymous with hustle, wealth, and hip-hop royalty. Rising from the gritty streets of New Orleans, he built the No Limit Records empire in the 1990s and transformed himself into a multi-millionaire mogul entrepreneur and father figure to the next generation. Most fans know him as the devoted dad of child star and rapper Romeo Miller, often showcased as the golden heir to the Miller legacy. But behind that high-profile relationship existed a quieter, more painful reality. Several of Master P's children were left to grow up in the shadows. Throughout his marriage to Sonia C., Master P fathered at least 7 children, including Mercy Italy, Hersey Titiana, and Inti. Yet only Romeo received sustained attention music opportunities and widespread media exposure. While Romeo starred in films, toured, and joined his father on stage, his siblings remained virtually unseen by the public for years. Their exclusion wasn't just coincidental. It became a glaring omission once reality television peeled back the curtain. The family's deeply private struggles became public when Sonia C. filed for divorce in 2013, citing financial neglect and manipulation. She accused Master P of funneling assets and favoring one child over the others, using his influence to control narratives and access. Fans, once enamored by his success story, began questioning why some of his children lived in the spotlight while others were treated like footnotes. Tragedy struck in 2022 when daughter Titiana Miller, who had long battled substance abuse, passed away from an accidental overdose. The heartbreaking loss reignited conversations about emotional availability, selective parenting, and the unseen costs of fame. For many, Master P's empire no longer looked bulletproof. It looked fractured. He may have built a kingdom, but within it were children seeking more than fortune. They wanted presence, equality, and love. And in that, the legacy was incomplete. R. Kelly. R. Kelly, once celebrated as the king of R&B, rose from the streets of Chicago to global stardom with chart-topping ballads like I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition Remix. With a decades-long career marked by undeniable musical talent, he became one of the most commercially successful black artists of his time. But behind the platinum records and standing ovations lay a deeply disturbing personal life, one riddled with secrecy control and emotional abandonment even toward his own blood. In 2002, R. Kelly and his then-wife, Andrea Kelly, welcomed a son, Robert Kelly Jr. Yet unlike the children of other superstars, Robert Jr. never graced red carpets, magazine spreads, or award show tributes. He was hidden not by accident, but by design. While R. Kelly's name echoed through arenas, his son remained a quiet figure in the shadows of his father's fame. The world only learned about Robert Jr., his existence, after Andrea courageously stepped forward with chilling accounts of years of emotional and physical abuse within their household. As the allegations against R. Kelly mounted from sexual misconduct to manipulation and coercion, questions began to emerge about what life had been like behind closed doors for his children. Robert Jr. became emblematic of that hidden life, a child growing up amid turmoil, fear, and silence. Reports suggest that he, along with his siblings, distanced themselves from their father as they grew older, especially as the legal firestorm surrounding R. Kelly intensified. The man whose music once celebrated love and vulnerability had failed in one of life's most vital roles, being a present and nurturing father. Today, as R. Kelly faces the consequences of his actions behind bars, the spotlight no longer shines on his voice, but on the wreckage he left behind. And among that wreckage stands Robert Jr., not just as a forgotten son, but as a survivor of a legacy built on illusion. DMX, born Earl Simmons, wasn't just a rap icon. He was a force of raw emotion, channeling anguish, struggle, and spiritual warfare through his gritty, soul-bearing lyrics. Rising to fame in the late 1990s with multi-platinum albums like It's Dark and Hell is Hot, and then there was X. He became one of the most electrifying voices in hip-hop history. But behind the growls and fiery performances was a deeply complicated personal life that few truly understood, one marked by a sprawling family tree and a legacy of unacknowledged lives. At the time of his death in 2021, DMX had fathered 15 children with multiple women. While some were known to the public, like his son Xavier Simmons, who appeared in interviews, others had remained completely out of sight. One such child was Sasha Simmons, the daughter of Patricia Trejo, whose existence was unknown until a child support lawsuit revealed her identity. Sasha wasn't the only one. In the aftermath of DMX's passing, legal proceedings surrounding his estate uncovered a chaotic family reality. Numerous children from different relationships, some who had never even met one another. Court documents surfaced as more individuals stepped forward asserting lineage and seeking acknowledgement. What emerged was not just a legal quagmire, but an emotional reckoning. Many of DMX's children grew up without consistency, guidance, or presence from their father. His battle with addiction and relentless touring schedule kept him disconnected even as he preached about pain and redemption in his music. For fans, DMX's vulnerability was what made him relatable. But for his children especially, those kept in the shadows, that vulnerability came with consequences, years of silence, missed milestones, and absence wrapped in fame. Though his music remains immortal, his legacy is tangled in unanswered questions, and children left longing for something deeper than lyrics, a father's love that never fully arrived. Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, born Calvin Brodus Jr., became a household name with his laid-back flow, unmistakable voice, and West Coast swagger. From his doggy-style debut to his reinvention as an entertainment personality, Snoop built an image as a family man, often seen praising his wife Shantae and proudly promoting his children's accomplishments. Yet behind the polished public persona was a hidden chapter, a son he refused to acknowledge for over a decade. In 1997, at the height of his fame, Snoop had an extramarital affair with a woman named Lori Holmond. The result of that relationship was a baby boy named Julian Corey Broadus. But instead of embracing fatherhood, Snoop distanced himself. For years, he remained absent. No visits, no support, no public mention. Julian's name was never included in interviews or family profiles. While Snoop was celebrated as a loyal husband and doting dad, Julian lived in obscurity bearing the Broadus surname, but none of the visibility or affection attached to it. It wasn't until 2007 that the truth could no longer be ignored. A court-ordered DNA test confirmed that Julian was indeed Snoop's biological son. Legally, the connection was now official, but emotionally little changed. While other Broadus children were showcased on social media, celebrated at events, and featured in television projects, Julian remained outside the spotlight, navigating his identity alone. Despite the revelation, a genuine father-son bond never took root. Julian eventually spoke publicly, not to attack, but to express the emotional impact of growing up in the shadow of a father who rarely showed up. He pursued his own career in music and real estate, determined to succeed on his own merit, not off his father's name. For all his accolades and cultural influence, Snoop Dogg's story with Julian reveals a quieter, more sobering truth. Even legends can leave behind those who need them the most. Jay-Z, born Sean Carter, transformed himself from a hustler on Brooklyn's streets to a global icon and one of hip-hop's first billionaires. With platinum albums, business empires, and a picture-perfect marriage to Beyoncé, his life seemed untouchable. But outside the glow of private jets and sold-out stadiums, a lingering controversy quietly challenged his legacy. An alleged son named Rymir Satterthwaite, whose demand for recognition has persisted for over a decade. The story begins in the early 1990s, before Jay-Z's meteoric rise, when he reportedly had a brief relationship with Wanda Satterthwaite. In 1992, she gave birth to Rymir. For years, Wanda insisted Jay-Z was the father, but no paternity test was conducted. As Rymir grew older, he began to believe what his mother had always told him, that his father was one of the biggest entertainers in the world. By his late teens, Rymir launched a legal campaign to obtain a DNA test and establish paternity. However, his journey was met with relentless legal pushback. Jay-Z's team, armed with high-powered attorneys, allegedly blocked or delayed every attempt. The case became tangled in procedural battles with Rymir, claiming he was denied justice due to Jay-Z's wealth and influence. Court documents and interviews with Rymir paint a picture of a young man not seeking fame or fortune, but identity. Despite repeated denials from Jay-Z's legal team and no official paternity test on file, Rymir has remained vocal, determined to have his story heard. Jay-Z, for his part, has never publicly commented on the matter. To many, his silence speaks volumes. As his empire grows, so does the shadow of this unresolved chapter. A young man still searching for closure, and a billionaire still avoiding the courtroom truth. Behind every lyric and business triumph, this unanswered question remains. Did hip-hop's king leave behind more than verses in his past? Diddy, Sean "Diddy" Combs. One of the most influential moguls in music history, cultivated an empire built on style, ambition, and image. From founding Bad Boy Records to launching global brands, he seemed to have it all, especially a fairy tale romance with model and actress Kim Porter. Together, they appeared unstoppable, co-parenting in the spotlight while raising their children in an environment of luxury and unity. But in 2006, that public image imploded when a deeply personal betrayal came to light. Diddy had fathered a child outside his relationship with Kim at the very moment she was carrying his twin daughters. The woman was Sarah Chapman, a name previously unknown to the public. She gave birth to a baby girl named Chance Combs, conceived during Diddy's ongoing relationship with Kim. The revelation wasn't just a case of infidelity, it was a devastating blow that redefined the trust Kim had in him. To make matters worse, the scandal surfaced while Kim was in the most vulnerable state of her life, pregnant with twins. When the truth broke, Diddy made no dramatic apology or public plea. He acknowledged the child, but remained largely silent about the emotional fallout. Kim, heartbroken and humiliated, chose to walk away in 2007 after over a decade of devotion. Their picture-perfect relationship unraveled in a matter of months, leaving behind a blended family fractured by deception. Chance, once hidden, was slowly integrated into the public side of the Combs legacy. She became part of family outings, celebrations, and social media posts. Yet the scars from how it began never quite faded. To fans, Diddy went from devoted partner to cautionary tale, proof that even empires built on love and loyalty can crumble under the weight of one secret. In Diddy's carefully polished world, this wasn't just a private misstep. It was a defining moment that exposed the human flaws behind the mogul mask. Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes, renowned for his rapid-fire delivery and explosive stage presence, carved out a legacy as one of hip-hop's most animated and technically gifted performers. With hits like Break Your Neck and Touch It, he captivated audiences across generations. But away from the flashing lights and pulsating beats, Busta-born Trevor George Smith Jr. found himself entangled in a private battle far removed from music, the denial of his own daughter Mariah, and the legal war that followed. In 1998, Busta had a quiet relationship with Jill Missick, a woman who never appeared in the tabloids or red carpets. That union resulted in the birth of Mariah, a daughter kept far from the spotlight. Unlike his public fatherhood with his other children, Busta made no acknowledgement of Mariah, no photos, no statements, no celebration. For years, her name was absent from his life, as though she didn't exist. Jill, unwilling to let her child grow up in silence, filed a paternity suit in the early 2000s, demanding support, legal recognition, and emotional accountability. But rather than reconcile or embrace his role, Busta fought back hard. He reportedly spent vast sums on legal defense, not to claim his daughter but to deny responsibility. The case dragged on, filled with bitterness and tabloid scrutiny. Eventually, the courts confirmed what Jill had always claimed: Mariah was Busta's daughter. Yet their relationship never evolved beyond the courtroom. No father-daughter reunions, no heartfelt apologies, just silence. While Busta continued to thrive musically, the emotional cost of that legal war lingered. For Mariah, the spotlight came not from pride or connection, but from litigation. Her place in his life was carved not by love, but by legal filings and court orders. Busta Rhymes may be a lyrical giant, but in Mariah's world, he remains a distant figure, one who chose reputation over recognition. Stevie J. Stephen Aaron Jordan, better known as Stevie J, rose to prominence in the 1990s as a Grammy-winning producer behind hits for legends like the notorious B.I.G., Mariah Carey, and Diddy. A staple of Bad Boy Records, his talent was undeniable. But as his music career slowed, Stevie J reinvented himself through reality television, becoming a breakout star on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. It was there, under the scrutiny of cameras and millions of viewers, that a buried secret came roaring to the surface: a daughter he had spent years pretending didn't exist. In 1998, Stevie had a brief relationship with Carol Antoinette Bennett, which resulted in the birth of their daughter, Savannah Jordan. For over a decade, Stevie J remained silent. He offered no financial support, no paternal presence, and no acknowledgement. While he portrayed himself as a doting father on screen to his other children, Savannah lived in emotional exile, growing up watching her father on TV, yet never hearing from him. In 2012, Carol had had enough. Armed with years of unpaid child support records and mounting frustration, she went public accusing Stevie of owing hundreds of thousands of dollars. The media swarmed, and love and hip-hop producers leaned into the drama, exposing Stevie's failings in full view of the world. Savannah, once hidden, became part of a larger conversation about celebrity fathers who abandon responsibility until public pressure forces accountability. The storyline gripped audiences not because it was sensational, but because it was real. A mother fighting for her child, a daughter seeking recognition, a man forced to answer for his absence. Though Stevie eventually acknowledged Savannah, the damage had been done. For fans, it wasn't just entertainment. It was a sobering look at how fame can mask deep personal failures. In the end, no hit record or TV rating could drown out the voice of a child who had been silenced too long. Nas. Nasir Jones, better known as Nas, is revered as one of hip-hop's greatest poets. His 1994 debut album, Illmatic, set a gold standard for lyrical storytelling, blending social commentary with personal introspection. But in 2009, just as he should have been celebrating the birth of his son Knight Jones with then-wife Kellis Nas, found himself in a brutal legal and emotional storm one that would turn the joy of fatherhood into a public battleground. What began as a fairy tale union between two music stars quickly dissolved into bitterness. Kellis filed for divorce while pregnant, and the months that followed saw accusations of physical abuse, infidelity, and financial abandonment flood the media. The fight wasn't just between ex-lovers, it became a war over Knight's future. Headlines described a father dodging support obligations and a mother demanding justice for her child. Court documents revealed that Nas allegedly owed hundreds of thousands in unpaid child support, and Kellis claimed he was inconsistent and absent in Knight's early years. In turn, Nas argued he was being denied access to his son and portrayed as a villain in a deeply personal feud. The custody battle raged on for years, often spilling into public discourse and casting a shadow over Nas's otherwise pristine reputation as a reflective, socially conscious artist. What hurt the most for fans was seeing a man who so eloquently rapped about survival, fatherhood, and community caught in such a painful, unresolved chapter. Unlike his daughter Destiny, whom he proudly referenced in songs and interviews, Knight remained largely out of view, symbolizing the emotional distance and unresolved tensions between his parents. Nas may have mastered the art of turning pain into poetry, but when it came to Knight, the verse was interrupted by silence. And in that silence lived a child born into legacy but caught in a storm he never asked for. 50 Cent. Curtis, 50 Cent. Jackson built his brand on resilience, grit, and survival. From surviving 9 gunshots to dominating the music charts and later conquering television with Power 50's Rise, was the embodiment of a rags-to-riches empire. But in 2012, while his professional success soared, a secret from his personal life burst into public view. He had quietly fathered a son, Sire Jackson, with model and entrepreneur Daphne Joy. The world had no idea. For years, there had been no announcements, no photos, and no references to a baby boy. The news only came to light when TMZ published court documents confirming 50 Cent's paternity. Fans were stunned. Why would a man so outspoken about legacy and loyalty conceal something as monumental as fatherhood? Critics speculated whether the secrecy was out of protection, embarrassment, or legal maneuvering. Once exposed, 50 had no choice but to publicly embrace his role. Almost overnight, Sire went from being a hidden child to the face of lavish Instagram posts and media attention. At just 2 years old, Sire reportedly landed a modeling contract worth $700,000, becoming one of the most high-profile celebrity children in fashion. Still, some saw this sudden about-face as damage control rather than redemption. After all, 50 Cent had already been publicly estranged from his first son, Marquise Jackson, amid years of tension, online feuds, and bitter interviews. The contrast between his rocky relationship with Marquise and the polished image of fatherhood he projected with Sire raised eyebrows. In the end, 50's handling of his secret son reflected a deeper conflict between authenticity and brand. For a man who built a career off brutal honesty and keeping it real, his delayed acknowledgement of sire revealed that even the most fearless personas sometimes hide their most vulnerable truths. T.I. Clifford T.I. Harris, often crowned the King of the South, made his mark in hip-hop with hard-hitting rhymes and undeniable charisma. He parlayed his music fame into television success, becoming a household name through reality shows like T.I. and Tiny: The Family Hustle, which portrayed him as a loving, engaged father to a large blended family. But one daughter, Deja Imani Harris, remained noticeably distant from the spotlight, a silence that spoke volumes long before the headlines caught up. Deja, born in 2001 to T.I. and his ex-girlfriend Raniqua, known publicly as Ms. Nico, was for years barely acknowledged in T.I.'s public narrative, while his other children frequently appeared on red carpets and social media. Deja was rarely mentioned, raising quiet questions among fans. But in 2019, those whispers turned into a storm when T.I. made an unsettling admission during a podcast interview. He revealed that he accompanied Deja to her annual gynecologist appointments to check her hymen, a comment that immediately sparked global outrage. Human rights advocates, doctors, and the general public condemned the invasive practice, calling it controlling, outdated, and emotionally damaging. Deja herself unfollowed her father on social media and liked posts criticizing his behavior, signaling public disapproval and private pain. T.I. attempted damage control, labeling his comments as jokes or misstatements, but the backlash had already taken root. The incident forced a national conversation about bodily autonomy, parenting boundaries, and the emotional toll of public shame on a teenage girl. For Deja, the scandal wasn't just about one invasive comment. It was the culmination of years of invisibility and being treated differently from her siblings. T.I., who prided himself on leadership and family values, had crossed a line that no public apology could fully erase. In the empire he built on strength and swagger, this moment exposed a stark vulnerability, one that reminded the world that being a father isn't about control but care, trust, and respect. Rick Ross, the self-proclaimed boss of hip-hop, built an empire on confidence, opulence, and control. Known for his booming voice, luxury lifestyle, and the success of Maybach Music Group, Ross crafted an image of untouchable wealth and dominance. But in 2017, that image cracked when a personal truth surfaced that money and fame couldn't suppress a daughter named Berkeley Hermes, born to fitness model Brianna Camille, whom Ross had never publicly acknowledged. For years, the relationship and the child it produced was kept in the shadows. Ross flaunted his cars, mansions, and gold records, but remained silent about Berkeley. It wasn't until Brianna filed a lawsuit seeking child support that the public learned about the little girl he had kept hidden. The documents alleged not only neglect, but complete denial. Ross had neither claimed paternity nor provided consistent financial support. The media jumped on the story not because Ross had another child, but because it contradicted the image he projected: a man in control of every aspect of his life and legacy. Fans were shocked that someone who rapped about power and loyalty could be so disconnected from one of his own children. The court eventually ordered Ross to pay monthly support, including health insurance and additional funds, once a second child with Brianna was born. As the legal battles continued, Ross slowly began to include Berkeley in his public life, posting photos and appearing at birthday celebrations. But for many, the gesture felt like a response to public pressure, rather than a heartfelt embrace of fatherhood. Rick Ross may have built his brand on being larger than life, but this chapter reminded fans that fatherhood requires more than presence on a track or in a mansion. It demands responsibility, humility, and acknowledgement, qualities that no platinum plaque can substitute when a child is waiting to be seen. Ludacris. Christopher Ludacris Bridges, known for his animated flow and comedic charm, transitioned seamlessly from chart-topping rapper to successful actor and philanthropist. He carefully curated a public image as a fun-loving, hands-on father, especially with his daughters from his marriage to Eudoxie Mbugienge. But in 2013, a brief affair threatened to dismantle that wholesome reputation when the existence of a secret daughter, Kai Bella Bridges, was thrust into the public eye. The child was born out of a short-lived relationship with Tamika Fuller, a woman outside Ludacris's high-profile circle. At first, the rapper chose to remain quiet, offering no public comment, and reportedly attempted to keep the situation under wraps. But when Tamika filed for child support, the story exploded. Instead of settling quietly, Ludacris shocked many by filing for full custody of the infant just weeks after she was born. The legal move was met with skepticism. Critics and fans questioned whether the custody bid was a genuine attempt at responsible parenting or a strategic effort to limit child support obligations. What followed was a highly publicized courtroom showdown marked by emotional testimony, legal maneuvering, and intense scrutiny from the media. In 2015, the court awarded Ludacris full custody, a decision that stunned many observers. Though he vowed to provide a loving home, some believed the case revealed more about control than compassion. Meanwhile, Tamika expressed deep heartbreak, claiming she was being cut out of her daughter's life. Since then, Ludacris has posted occasional photos of Kai on social media, working to present a united front with all his children. But the circumstances under which she entered his world remain controversial. For a man whose lyrics once celebrated fast living, Ludacris's secret daughter became the unexpected consequence that forced him into the most serious role of all, not entertainer but father under a microscope. The Game. Jayceon The Game. Taylor built his career on raw honesty, unapologetic lyrics, and an image steeped in West Coast pride and gangsta authenticity. From the documentary to his many public feuds, he portrayed himself as a fierce protector of family and fatherhood, regularly showcasing his sons Harlem and King Justice on social media and in interviews. But for years, one of his children was missing from that picture, a daughter named California Dream Taylor, born from his relationship with fiancée Tiffany Cambridge. Unlike his sons, who were often featured alongside him in magazine spreads, music videos, and award shows, California remained virtually invisible. No birthday shout-outs, no red carpet appearances, no casual mentions. To fans, it appeared as though The Game only had 2 children. But in 2012, everything changed when the VH1 reality series, Marrying the Game, aired and pulled back the curtain. In a quiet, intimate scene, California made her first public appearance. The audience was stunned. Many had no idea she even existed. There was no grand reveal, no celebratory moment, just a quiet truth now exposed to millions. Her debut raised questions about why she had been left out of the public family narrative for so long. Was it a protective decision? Or was it rooted in something more complicated, issues within the relationship or personal shame? The Game never directly addressed why he kept his daughter hidden, though. After the show aired, she became more visible in his online life. Still, the incident left a lingering discomfort among some fans. How could a man so vocal about fatherhood exclude one of his own children from his narrative? For The Game. A rapper who built his reputation on keeping it real, California Dream was the unspoken chapter until reality television forced it into the light. And in that moment, authenticity wasn't just about lyrics, it was about finally acknowledging every part of his story. Lil Wayne. Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., better known as Lil Wayne, built his rap empire with swagger, unpredictability, and an unmatched lyrical legacy. From the gritty roots of Thaw Block Is Hot to the commercial domination of Thaw Carter III, he earned his place among hip-hop's elite. Publicly, he embraced fatherhood, often mentioning his daughter Regina in interviews and songs. But in 2008, at the height of his fame, Lil Wayne secretly welcomed another child, a son named Dwayne Carter III. The mother was Sarah Vivon, a radio personality with limited ties to the entertainment spotlight. Their relationship remained quiet, and when Sarah gave birth, the news was barely a whisper in media circles. For months, the identity of the child and his connection to Wayne were kept under wraps. There were no baby announcements, no interviews, no red carpet moments, just silence. The secret might have remained buried longer if not for growing speculation and curiosity. Eventually, Lil Wayne confirmed he had a new son, but only in passing, without offering much detail. His announcement raised more questions than answers. Why the secrecy? Why hide a child when he so openly celebrated fatherhood with others? Though Dwayne Carter III eventually began appearing in occasional photos and mentions the lack of visibility and transparency left fans puzzled. Was Lil Wayne trying to shield his son from public scrutiny? Or was he attempting to maintain control over an image he had carefully crafted? Over time, the rapper acknowledged Dwayne III more openly, even celebrating his birthday on social media. Still, for many observers, the delay in recognition stood in contrast to the loud, bold persona Wayne projected in his music. In a career defined by bravado and openness, the quiet entry of his son into the world revealed a more guarded, conflicted side of Lil Wayne, a reminder that even those who bare their souls in music can be reluctant when it comes to the most intimate truths. Bow Wow, Shad Bow. Wow Moss skyrocketed to fame as a child mentored by Snoop Dogg and backed by Jermaine Dupri. By the time he was a teenager, he had already released platinum albums, starred in films, and become a pop culture sensation. His youthful charm, confident swagger, and squeaky clean image made him a staple of early 2000s hip-hop. But as he matured, so did his secrets, and in 2011, the world discovered he had been hiding a daughter named Shay Moss. Born to model Joey Chavis, Shay entered the world quietly with no public mention from her father. For nearly a year, Bow Wow kept her existence private, refusing to confirm rumors or address speculation. Fans and media alike were shocked. How could someone so publicly visible who once rapped about loyalty and love keep something as monumental as fatherhood a secret? The truth finally surfaced, not through interviews or paparazzi photos, but through Bow Wow himself. In a heartfelt post on his official website, he confirmed he was a father. He explained that he had kept Shay a secret to protect her from the spotlight and the harsh scrutiny he had endured his entire life. While his message was emotional and sincere, some critics questioned the timing. Was it damage control or a genuine desire to reconnect? Since then, Bow Wow has gradually embraced his role as a father, sharing photos and sweet moments with Shay on social media. The two appear to have built a strong bond, but the delayed acknowledgement remains a defining part of his public narrative. For someone who grew up in the public eye, Bow Wow's journey into fatherhood showed a more vulnerable side, one that wrestled with fear, privacy, and image. In the end, the little girl he once kept hidden became the brightest part of his legacy. Future-born Nivadius Damon Wilburn rose to fame with his hypnotic beats and melancholic lyrics, becoming a defining voice in trap music. With platinum records, high-profile romances, and a reputation for emotional detachment, he embodied the modern-day rock star, elusive, indulgent, and always in control. But behind the designer sunglasses and stacks of cash, Future harbored a secret that would eventually unravel in public view: a son named Jacoby Wilburn, born in 2002, who he spent years avoiding in both word and action. Jacoby's mother, Jessica Smith, kept their child out of the spotlight for years, even as Future's fame skyrocketed. While the rapper boasted about his lifestyle and paraded other children online, Jacoby remained unseen. No birthday posts, no interviews, no mentions. For over a decade, Future neither confirmed nor embraced his role in Jacoby's life, creating an emotional void that would later explode into a legal storm. In 2013, Jessica filed a lawsuit demanding child support, alleging Future had failed to provide for their son. The courtroom revealed more than financial neglect. It exposed a pattern of avoidance. When asked to disclose his income, Future was accused of downplaying his earnings to lower his payment obligations. Meanwhile, in public, he flaunted wealth, once bragging about carrying $25,000 in cash at all times. That statement became a turning point. Jessica immediately requested increased support, and the case grew into a larger narrative about celebrity accountability. Fans and critics began questioning whether Future's detachment from Jacoby was about privacy or pure neglect. Even as he fathered more children with other women, Jacoby remained noticeably absent from the carefully curated image Future shared with the world. Today, Jacoby has grown into adulthood largely outside his father's influence. For Future, the lawsuit may have ended, but the damage left behind is a reminder that fame cannot replace fatherhood, and silence can speak louder than any lyric. Chris Brown. Chris Brown, once the golden boy of R&B, dazzled audiences with his dance moves, smooth vocals, and undeniable stage presence. From the moment he burst onto the scene in the mid-2000s, he was marketed as the next Michael Jackson. But fame, fortune, and controversy would follow him every step of the way. In 2015, another shocking chapter unfolded not on stage but behind closed doors, when it was revealed that Brown had secretly fathered a daughter named Royalty. The child was the result of a brief relationship with model Nia Guzman. For 9 months, the news was kept entirely under wraps. Not even Chris's then-girlfriend, actress and model Karache Tran had any idea. She learned about the child not from Chris himself, but through tabloids. The betrayal was devastating. Karache, who had weathered public breakups, cheating rumors, and Brown's lingering connection to Rihanna, walked away for good. She publicly cut ties, making it clear she was blindsided. As the media frenzy erupted, Brown initially remained quiet but soon confirmed the news. He named his daughter Royalty, a gesture that some saw as an attempt to claim a meaningful place in her life. He began posting pictures with her, including her in his social media feeds, and even naming an album after her. But the drama didn't end there. Guzman filed for full custody and demanded $15,000 a month in child support, claiming Chris was inconsistent and his lifestyle unsafe for a child. A bitter custody battle ensued, with accusations flying on both sides. Despite the turmoil, Brown eventually gained joint custody and made Royalty a central part of his life. Royalty's existence may have started as a secret, but she quickly became the most grounding force in Chris Brown's chaotic world. Still, the way she entered the public consciousness through scandal and heartbreak forever altered how fans viewed the man once idolized for his charm and talent. Drake. Drake born Aubrey. Drake. Graham spent years crafting a carefully curated image, emotional yet guarded, polished yet relatable, romantic yet mysterious. From Take Care to Scorpion, he became hip-hop's global ambassador, dominating charts while keeping his personal life under tight wraps. But in 2018, that veil of privacy was ripped away not by paparazzi or scandalous headlines, but by a rival's rap verse that shook the industry to its core. In a now infamous diss track titled "The Story of Adidon" rapper Pusha T accused Drake of hiding a secret son named Adonis, born to French artist and former adult film star Sophie Brousseau. The internet exploded. Fans were stunned. The media swarmed. For a man who had masterfully dodged controversy, the revelation struck hard, especially because Drake had gone to great lengths to keep the child and the mother out of the public eye. Up until that moment, Drake had made no public acknowledgement of fatherhood. But the diss left him cornered. Rather than deny it, he responded through music. On his 2018 album, Scorpion, Drake addressed the situation directly, rapping, "I wasn't hiding my kid from the world. I was hiding the world from my kid." It was a line that attempted to reframe the narrative, suggesting protection, not shame. Despite the late reveal, Drake embraced the role of fatherhood in the aftermath. He began sharing glimpses of Adonis on social media, birthday photos, drawings, and heartfelt captions. The boy became a visible part of Drake's life, even appearing with him at award shows. Still, the fact that fatherhood was forced into the open by a diss track not personal choice left many questioning his authenticity. For all his emotional lyrics and introspective themes, the secrecy surrounding Adonis proved that even the most self-aware artist can struggle with the rawest truths. Drake's legacy is filled with hits, accolades, and vulnerability, but Adonis's hidden beginnings will always remain a defining plot twist in the story of hip-hop's most elusive superstar. So after uncovering the untold stories behind 25 black celebrities who kept their children hidden from the public eye, we're left with one lingering question: can fame ever justify secrecy in fatherhood? From courtroom battles to quiet confessions, each revelation reveals a deeper struggle between image and responsibility. Do these stars deserve empathy for protecting their privacy or accountability for denying their children? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more powerful stories that challenge what we think we know.